All right, Inappropriate Earl is back. You know, last night's episode with Kristen Dode from Vanderpump Rules, breaking all one-day listen records on the podcast. And I don't usually like to do two in a row. I like to let them breathe. But this next guest is the highest accomplished pro athlete I've ever had on this show. He was just in the Jersey room, the only NHL player to ever be in my house and in the Jersey room. Two-time Stanley Cup winner with the Kings and Ducks. This guy's the real deal. We're going to get what's going on in his life now. So put your hands together for two-time Stanley Cup champion, Mr. Dustin Penner.
Thank you very much for that elegant introduction, Earl.
Now, you got your name twice on the Stanley Cup. How does it feel to sit there and look at my cavalcade of leading scoring trophies from lower division ball hockey?
I don't have any of those, and they look fantastic. The only thing I have to counteract that are 2 Stanley Cup rings, which I forgot and wish you would have told me to bring.
I wish you would have. And I should have hit you up. I would have bought it from you.
It's a weird conversation to have, right? Like for you to ask and me to say, hey, did you want me to bring them?
Well,
it would have been the right thing to do, I think.
What I should have done is asked you, and I would have bought it from you.
Yeah.
I don't want freebies. I know you've been around freeloaders your whole life. You know, people wanting stuff from you. I have, as you know, about 1,500 game-worn jerseys, all of fighters, one Peter Nedved. I'm not sure how that got in there. It's
Maybe
a crime.
Peter put it in there.
He might have snuck in there. It's a crime that there's not a Dustin Penner jersey in that room.
I have had a couple fights.
Well, you have, and I want to get, I don't plan these interviews, Dustin.
Good.
As you will very quickly find out. When I looked you up on dropyourgloves.com, I want to see if he's had any fights.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you. There's not a lot of fight footage of you in the world.
There isn't.
Because you are a goal scorer, a finesse player. And I found one fight.
That's it?
That's on video.
No, you got to go to YouTube. There's probably a dozen, if not 15.
No, I'm telling you, dropyourgloves.com. I had no endorsement deal with them. They have any fight that you have had on video. And the one fight that I was able to procure for this conversation was one where you had with Zach Ronaldo after he hit Drew Doughty.
Yeah, Drew should have picked his head up earlier.
And I want to get into the psychology of that because you're a big guy, about 6'4", 250.
Yes, I'd say I'll take that.
Maybe 260. I mean, it's all good.
Depends what season it is.
And was there ever pressure for you being a bigger guy to fight?
Yeah, there is. Obviously, especially coming, and I guess this isn't obvious, but the way I came up from a relatively unknown upbringing as far as hockey goes, you suddenly shoot up within a year, a foot in height and 30 pounds, and you go from people's perception of you being a finesse player to, well, who's this big guy? Immediately think you're a fighter. I remember talking to Todd Fedoruk, who was my roommate my first year in Anaheim, and he goes, this is 3 months after final cuts. He goes, yeah, when you walked into the room, me, Kip Brennan, and Garrett Burnett all said, who the fuck is this Neanderthal? I was like, well, I was saying the exact same thing about you three guys, hoping you wouldn't be tapping my shin pads. And I think my first professional fight was rookie camp against George Peros. Fought him. I think I may have got the better of him, but he wasn't as balanced as he ended up becoming throughout his career.
Now, and I noticed on YouTube, there's more fights. Drop Your Gloves must update their servers because there's at least 4 fights.
It might just be server at Drop Your Gloves.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're a low-budget operation. Now, the fight with Ronaldo, I want to get into the psychology of that because, like I said, you're not a non-fighter, but it's not really your thing. And Ronaldo had maybe come across and hit Drew. I guess you'd say it was a clean hit.
Yeah, but it just depends. There's different things that weigh into a hit like that. Well, first off, we're in Philly. It's relatively early on in the game. It might be even first shift.
First period, yeah.
First period, first shift, and he comes across and hits our star Olympian, Norris Trophy candidate, number one D-man on the team and maybe in the league, and catches him a little high. And he's a fourth line, 4 minute a night guy at that time. And I'm on the ice with him and I think Kopitar and maybe a couple other guys.
I think Scuderi was one of the D.
They all look to the bigger guy and they're like, yeah, all right. I guess I have to go. And it's not one of those things where you don't want to, but you're like, this guy's he's 5'9", and I'm 6'4", 250. And then you take a foot off the gas because you don't want to.
You want to hurt him. I mean,
it's just like one of those things because if a 6'5" guy beats up a 5'9", 5'10", and their 6'5" guy who practices jujitsu and Muay Thai boxing in the garage comes out and goes, "Hey, I know you don't do this a lot, but I do," and it's one of those things like you just. It's a fine balance when you're a big guy and a finesse player because you got to know when you can fight, when you should fight, and when you don't fight. Whereas as a fighter, it just either the coach tells you to, or you go out there and ask the other fighter when you're playing, one of your 5 shifts that night.
Right, but that's and I think at that time Jody Shelley was on the Flyers.
Probably.
So you probably would have if you.
Yeah,
beat up Ronaldo.
I would have been against the odds. I mean, I've fought, you probably know Matt Karkner, Jim Vandermeer.
Tough dudes.
Riley Cote. Who else? There was a few back in the minors.
I think Jack Johnson maybe had a little, not really
not the singer.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the blues guitar player.
Yeah.
I mean, in that case with Doughty, it's like if you didn't fight.
It looks poorly on me, right? It gives them the mental advantage or the crowd, right, where there's no retribution that is faced or brought upon their player, right? And now in this day and age with the visor rule being grandfathered in and the helmet rule, I don't know if that's in the NHL yet. I know it's in the AHL where you can't take off your own helmet.
I think it is. They give you an extra 2 minutes if you take it off.
In the NHL?
Yeah.
Oh God!
I mean, they're really, this is something as a fan I feel guilty about because, obviously acquiring 1,500, fighter jerseys. I like the rougher element of the game.
It's kind of sad, Earl.
Oh, absolutely, and that's why I feel sad because it's like you see what happened to Derek Bugard and Belak, and I think.
Well, yeah, I'm more sad from the way it's the pussification of it.
Yeah.
I mean, but with Boogie, and I know Boogie, I partied with him in the off season a few times, and he's a great guy. And if people always look for someone or something to blame, and I think with most people, you always have to look at yourself. Any position I put myself in or found myself in that's been negative towards my, reputation, it always starts with, well, what could I have done differently?
Right.
And sometimes you need people in those instances, whether it's team personnel or friends or relatives or parents picking up on those cues. But it's just, it's definitely sad when you lose players, Steve Montador, Wade Belak, guys like that.
Rippon.
Rick Rippon. It's hard to pinpoint it all on just one thing. Like, it's because he was a fighter and got punched in the head. Or there's a lot of unknowns about concussions. And what we know now will probably pale in comparison to what we know 10 to 15 to 20 years later down the road about CTE and things like that. I mean, the last concussion I got was by Garbett, who's a friend of mine. We worked out in the summer, and I've known him since I was 17, 18. And, there's still the effects, I feel like numbness and tingling in my left arm and fingers and right leg because it all wraps around from your C6 and C7 vertebrae. So, and if that's happening at that level, your brain is a softer, more fragile part of your body. And you can never be too sure of how it's being impacted, especially playing a game where you're simulating a small car crash
Right.
every day. You know, in practice too, like constant.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine if you fight for a living.
Yeah,
you know, like
it's probably just the effect is multiplied exponentially when you fight and play hockey.
like, do the players now not necessarily miss fighting, but like it's sometimes the games are hard to watch. You know, like
Yeah,
Rangers and Islanders played the other night, and I used to like the anticipation to watch it as a fan was like, wow, this is going to be a war, and now it's like, wow, this is like it's almost like a practice session.
yeah. It's
Do you guys miss that, or do you prefer it?
I watched a clip on Facebook the other day, and I think it was Rangers and Devils, 2010 or 12, first period before the puck even dropped, and the guys were scoring up, and I showed my roommate that, who's only become a hockey fan because he's living with me, and I go, that's probably some of my fondest memories when I played against the Flames, and I was with the Oilers, and I lined up against Prust, and he tapped me on the shin pads. And I looked at who was out there. I'm like, God damn it. And I didn't know, I knew Prust a bit, but not a lot about him. And I was a skill player in comparison to, you know, him. And then he said, we're going. I said, you don't make enough money to fight me.
Did he laugh?
Yeah, we had a good laugh. And then he goes, we got to go. I'm like, all right. But I know that probably sounds like an asshole thing to say to the fans out there, but those are the chirps that happen throughout the hockey game. You say that kind of stuff. You know, Getzlaf would say the same thing to me. You know, it just goes up the ladder,
Right.
you know, of the natural hierarchy. So he had a good laugh, and then we fought. I think Morrow fought someone. That's Ethan Morrow, and then there might have been one or two other ones during that line brawl. But everybody in the building anticipated that happening and loved that it did. And now you don't get that same feeling. Now you get a lot of like this is probably dating me, but a lot of nervous purposes. Like
oh yeah.
Like we're like, can I fight now? Should I fight? And like, is this gonna hurt my team? Am I gonna get sent down because I let my emotions get the best of me? Before your emotions getting the best of you, like controlled rage back then, where during a big rival game was a good thing, and now there's too much anxiety, I think, with a lot of guys not knowing if they should go and if they should fight now. Is this the right time? And what's the ref thinking? Does the ref like me in general? Is he going to give me the extra two? Am I going to get the instigator? Am I going to get my coach fined? Am I going to get fined? Is the owner going to get fined? There's so many different variables that go in to a fight now that guys have to think about. And then you see guys like, even with the hitting, like Rafi Torres and Ronaldo and different guys that the bubble bad hitters now, you wouldn't even look twice at their hits 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but they just keep on softening up the game in my mind.
I mean, like a guy like Rafi Torres, I mean, he, you know, once is an accident, twice is, you know,
yeah. No, I mean, I played with Rafi. I understand.
In Edmonton, right?
Yeah, I played with him in Edmonton, and he didn't adapt with the curve, right? The hits that he kept on getting fined for were the same hit that initially got him fined for, if not worse. Hossa, when he hit Hossa, Stoll was another one. There's been a few.
With him,
yeah,
I think
8 or 9.
And then I think Ronaldo just got suspended again.
For
5 games yesterday.
Yeah.
Is it a case of these guys just not? I mean, I'm sure they don't intend to like hurt people.
I mean, I think if they may not intend, but it's tough to prove intention.
Right.
Right. Like as an athlete growing up, you know, starting college hockey when I was 17, because I have a late birthday. You know, my goal when I hit someone was to hurt them. Like I remember breaking a kid's collarbone in college, and I was pretty pumped about that.
Right.
You know, it's just one of those things where, you know, it was shoulder to shoulder, I just was a bigger man, and that's kind of like if you've seen that Patrice O'Neill docu or comedy, he's paralyzed. You know, like
Right.
that's the mentality. You wouldn't want to do that, but the reason why you'd want to hurt another player within the rules of the game and not to decapitate him or paralyze him, right? Mess up his shoulder, you know, is so the next time he's looking over his shoulder, you know, when he has the puck or when he's crossing the offensive blue line, right? It's a tactic used as intimidation and fear. And a lot of the hits that are getting fined now, you know, you've probably heard this before, but Scott Stevens made a career on it. He was a great defenseman, but man, that's one guy I'm glad I didn't have to play against.
And his hits, for the most part, were pretty clean. Or am I?
I mean, if you've watched,
there was the one Korea hit where,
but the Lindros he caught twice in the chin coming across. Look up Scott Stevens' top 10 hits on TSN, like the Canadian Sports Network. You look like, wow. That's 10. That's 15. He probably got 150 games of suspensions or suspended games in that top 10 video.
Because it was just a different era. Like,
yeah.
I mean, the first guy who got me into watching hockey was a guy by the name of Barry Beck.
Okay.
And huge player on the Rangers, late 70s, early 80s. Now he wouldn't even be the biggest guy on his team. But you look at some of his hits on YouTube and you're like, wow, it's the same what you were just saying. It's like that would be 5 games. You know, he was a maniac.
Like everybody goes nuts and throws their hands in the air. Like, I can't believe Raffy did that or Ronaldo, but that has to happen in my mind because change doesn't happen unless there's people that are the examples for why change is needed.
Right.
Right. There's not going to be the NHL couldn't come in and Batman couldn't say, all right, from this day forth, no more high hits. Well, how as a player, you know, there's different intelligence or different intellects among players and different upbringings on, you know, what their dad taught them was a good hockey player, right? You know, finisher checks, run them through the boards. You know, they even used to say, if you see numbers, go harder. Back when I was young. You know, now they have stop signs on the back of their jerseys. So it's there's a learning curve, and it sucks to see guys get suspended and get become almost martyrs for the old days of hockey because they're not bad guys.
Right. I mean, do you think the lack of fighting or the elimination of fighting, basically, do you think that increases the dirty play? Or guys who are in the NHL, like, I don't mean to keep saying his name, but a guy like Ronaldo, do you think he even cares if there's a heavyweight on the other team? Like, does that...
No, I don't think so. It's because now you have the instigator rule, right? You've actually made it easier for guys not to own up to any dirty or cheap play. Because there was a time where your fourth line was filled with 2 meatheads and 1 centerman that could kill penalties and take faceoffs, right? Who bump up the line and play wing maybe if someone down. Like, cause I remember playing our fourth line when we won the cup was Todd Fedoruk, Brad May, and Todd Marchand. Okay, like that's a scary fourth line.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Fedoruk.
T-Bone, or we call him T-Bone, but Tom Marchand never felt taller playing with those guys.
Yeah. I can imagine he got in a few extra slashes.
Exactly, and I would have too. But it's just one of those things now where, you know, Ronaldo can go get a cheap shot in, and he may not see the ice the rest of the game anyways.
Right.
You might know that's his last shift. The game's tight. It's, you know, big points. It's a 4-point game perhaps in the division or, you know, the last 10 games of the season. And you're going to have to wait until next year to get your retribution.
Do players remember things like...
look up Brad May, Derek Bugard.
Oh my God.
I remember when Mayday hit that D-man, forget his name. It was in the playoffs, I think. And I don't think Boogie played the rest of the series because the games were so close and they needed, you know, a more skilled player in the lineup instead of him. But first game we played him next year, Mayday had to fight him, and I remember Mayday saying, I had nightmares about this fight all summer.
Oh, it was brutal.
Yeah, and he fucking stood in there. It was amazing. It's one of the proudest times I've ever been of a teammate.
Even though he lost the fight,
yeah,
a pretty devastating fashion, from what I remember.
Well, it was actually, if you watch it again, I don't know the last time you watched it. I thought so too, and then I watched him like, man, he stood in there and got a couple good. It was like I'd say it was like a father-son, where this, he didn't decapitate the son, but the son got a couple licks in.
Oh, for sure. Oh, he got in some shots. I mean, it's that
it was decisive, but it wasn't like Mayday didn't skate off the ice on his own power. He skated off going, that went a lot better than I thought it was gonna go.
Many men had worse against Bugard.
Well, Todd Fedoruk.
Yeah,
I was on the ice when he got his face.
How devastating is that to a team? Like, on one hand, you're like, hey, he took on Bugard. This guy's 6'8", 270, but maybe lost in a semi-devastating fight. Does that deflate the team to a degree?
It does. I'd say the initial split-second feeling, you're like, oh, fuck. Can you swear on this podcast?
Oh, listen, baby. This is
right.
You do whatever you want. I can edit anything out, but I prefer not to.
I'm not sure if your demographic.
My demographic is guys who you can swear. Let's just say that.
They're multitasking with a few windows open right now, looking at other websites.
Let's just say there's a few .org websites on my fan bases. I think a few of my fans have been on Amber Alerts.
I'm sure they're fun.
No, great fans. Yeah. They're very much like hockey. My fan base is hockey fans who are blue-collar fans for the most part, except the ones who go to Staples Center. I mean, geez, they're really pricing out fans.
Are they? Is it going up that high?
I mean, I don't know. I took a date there to see the Maple Leafs, and it was, it was like at the end of the night, parking, all that stuff, about $300. Now, I don't know many common fans who can blow $300 on one game.
Yeah, and even though people say, "Well, it's LA, everybody has money," it's not that way, because that if it's $300 for a game, it's
that's one game.
Well, yeah, and then but those people, they can't afford that because they're paying so much in rent and gas and parking and every other facet of their life. So
that's the only bummer about like Staples Center is it's not cheap. But you guys,
but to get back to that, what you were saying about the deflating aspect of a teammate losing a fight, and in an obvious fashion, like the Fedoruk Bugard one, is the initial shock is greater, but it dissipates much quicker because it goes to, you worry about, is he all right?
Right.
And once that happens, you go, okay, he's going to be all right. Then you almost get momentum to win that game for him.
Right.
Because, he fell on the sword for the team.
Now, in that case where he was, face was, pretty much broken.
Yeah.
Does that filter to you guys in that period? Like, does the trainer tell the coach, and then the coach?
They'll probably wait till after the game. Everybody's asking, but it's very hush hush, and a bunch of misdirection. Like, I think it was his right side, maybe it was the left side, just to keep the team more calm than overexcited and anxious and worried, because you got to focus on winning the game. But he was actually my roommate on the road, and I saw him in the hospital, and I knew shortly after the game, and pretty much the whole team did after that anyways. But you could argue that things weren't the same for him after that.
Yeah, no, because I imagine, I think, I forgot what team he was on, but he fought Colton Orr maybe a year later, and Colton connected on and it was like, oh my God, here we go again. And you could tell even Colton Orr felt bad, like, oh, hope you're not hurt.
I imagine it must be, before you ever have that happen to you, like the first time your face gets broken, you feel like it's never going to get broken. And then after every fight, or every fight thereafter, as you're in it, you probably think, wow, I got lucky. That one missed. That one, hope that one doesn't hit me. Instead
Right.
of thinking the opposite way, I'm going to try and, win this fight or break his face.
Sure.
Now you're worried about yours being broken again. Is the metal going to hold up? And then all of a sudden, Colton Orr happens.
Right. Well, I'm looking at a pair of Donald Brashear gloves behind you, and he went like undefeated for like 5 or 6 years, and then one night Wade Belak pretty much knocked him out cold, which was it was like seeing Tyson get beat. Like, oh wow, and then he was never really the same after that.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's like the UFC. Like, do you watch the UFC at all? Like Anderson Silva. Like,
after his leg got broken.
Right? I could imagine that would set you back mentally.
Yeah.
But now let's talk a little bit. The trade deadline was last Monday.
Yep.
And the Kings have a game tonight against the Montreal Canadiens. Their newest addition, Chris Versteeg, is playing his first game for the Kings. Now you've been traded on the deadline.
I have twice.
I think you came to the Kings.
Yeah.
Can you give us an insight into say what Chris Versteeg is going through tonight? Because it's a very similar transaction to when you were brought to the Kings, where the Kings needed something like a final piece.
Yeah.
He's being viewed as that, some secondary scoring, I guess.
So he's a good two-way player, centerman, can be a wing.
And you were known.
And he's won a cup.
Yeah, 2, I think.
It probably is 2. And Chicago, and then
I think
was it Chicago twice?
I think Chicago twice. But it was very similar to like when the Kings got you. It was like, we need a bigger body, goal scoring. And I got to be honest with you, and I'm not saying this to kiss your ass, because I don't kiss ass. You can tell. 16 years of comedy.
Yeah.
I clearly don't kiss ass.
That's not how you get ahead in that industry.
It is.
No, I know. That was being sarcastic.
Oh, see, there you go. I'm not paying attention. But I think you and Jonathan Quick were really the reasons the Kings won the first cup. I mean, because you were an animal in the playoffs.
I do love playoffs.
It seems like you, and this is a compliment coming from me. It's probably going to not come off as one, but like in the regular season, you did good regular season. But is there something about the playoffs that just motivated you a little more? Like,
I think it motivated me because the game has meant so much. I just love being in that pressure situation. Even now, like if I'm playing ping pong with my buddies and I'm down, 19-12, I believe I can win that game. I actually won a game last night against a buddy because I just love the mental edge that you can gain against people, right? Like you get the 13th point, the 14th and 15th, and then you go, wheels coming off, hey? And then you can see them starting to falter, and they, maybe double fault, and like, oh, here it comes. And that's the same thing in playoffs at the NHL level. Even when we were down, when I was on the Kings against other teams, you just knew, that we had the collective mental stamina to win those games in tight spots with Quick and Kopi and Doughty and, Williams, me, Brown, it just Stoll, Greener.
Right.
We all fed into a collective mindset where it was going to take a hell of a lot to break us.
Well, I mean, that was an unbelievable run.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, at what point during that run did you guys go, it's possible? I mean, was there a game or a moment, like maybe against Phoenix, where I think you had the overtime winner? And I mean, is there a moment when you go on a run like that?
That's when more people started believing. But I started believing, in that first series against Vancouver. After maybe game 3, we won. I think we won both there.
Right.
But even though like we lost, I think we lost game 3.
It's all good.
But like I said, after game 3, like, what they had to do to win that one, and they scratched and clawed to win that one, right? Like they won that one so they wouldn't get swept.
Right.
That's what they were playing for. We can't get swept. And was it the third game? I don't know. Maybe it's the fourth. Maybe there's some Kings fans going nuts right now.
There are, but I'm going to go get my handy dandy iPad. Doesn't matter, though.
Okay, but that's...
So in the Vancouver series, it was like, this is possible.
And that's because I had won with the Ducks prior. Because then you can see the pieces, right? Like, there's guys that hadn't been in that situation, you know, where they're going up against... they're an 8th seed going against the 1 seed. And they hadn't collected that belief through other playoff circumstances, whether it's in seasons past or other teams. And then once the rest of the team started to believe and got on board in that Vancouver series, because there was obviously doubt, you know, they were the number 1 team. We were the 8th seed. But the fashion that we won and the way we were on the body and, you know, the plays we were making, it just, you could see the confidence building. And then against St. Louis, we swept them, then played Phoenix. And then it would just, you just stack one on top of the other and you just gain confidence. And it's harder for you to get knocked down the more mental blocks you stack in your own psyche with wins and how you win.
And then
playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you and Justin Williams were like just, you know, the real deal.
Yeah, it's fun to watch the teams that I played on in the past still be good, and you remember what it's like even Washington, you see like Richie and Williams playing there now, right. Taylor Chorney, who I played with on D. Yeah, obviously I played with the rest of the guys that are there now. Then you see the Ducks and Kings. It's going to be really exciting. We'll have to go find a pub somewhere and watch a few games.
Absolutely. Well, there is a I don't know how familiar you are with this neighborhood, but there is a bar down the street called Gem.
I have. I thought you were going to say Body Shop.
Well, that's a hell of a roast beef sandwich they have there. But I remember watching the first round of that Vancouver series at Gem.
Yeah.
Because I thought it stood for gymnasium. It's a natural...
So you're going to the gym.
Right.
Yeah.
And apparently it stands for a gay young male. So I sit down... And game starts, and this guy sits next to me. And if you're uncomfortable with this, I can edit this out. I don't think you will be. But guy sits down next to me and goes, God, number 10, Mike Richards, looks like he has a huge cock. And I was like, you know, I think I'll go to my home and watch the rest of the game. So I come here, sitting on this couch. The whole second period, couldn't take my eyes off Mike Richards' cock. So I went back to...
I just thought I was playing on loop in your head for the whole second period. God, that Mike Richards...
Yeah. I'm in this seat where I'm at right now, and I don't know if he does or doesn't. You could probably answer the question. I don't need it answered. I couldn't take my eyes off his crotch region. Went back and watched the rest of the game. I think that game went into double overtime. So
we were in for the long haul of that game.
Tell me about it. So was Richards. So we'll have to find another area to watch. I'm not going back to that bar. Or if you can bring your girlfriend or lady friend.
We can. Whatever is.
I don't know what the.
I don't know either.
Terminology is. And she has a fat friend. I'd be interested.
she can find one.
No. Any girl who looks like your girlfriend has a fat friend. Trust me. But let's get this back to hockey talk. This has turned into outing my local sports bar.
I don't know if it's a sports bar.
Well, if there's anything,
sport fucking.
Well, let's just say this: the gay kickball league that's plays at the local park, they have their annual meeting there. So, and I got nothing. Listen,
sponsored by Grindr,
right? Sponsored by Astroglide. Well, I live in West Hollywood, as many of you know, and so I'm down with whatever you're into. Yeah. It's all good. And that's going to approach a subject later on in the podcast because, you've been in NHL locker rooms. But let's get back to the trade deadline. What do you think Versteeg is thinking right now? We're 2 hours away from game time it's even he's a veteran, much like you were. Is he, in a sense, feel a little pressure to impress his new teammates, or since he's well known throughout the league?
No, I don't think he'll feel pressure to impress his new teammates. I think if anything, it'll be more directed at the coaching staff.
Right.
And the coaching staff, when they get a player like Chris Versteeg at this point or this juncture in the season, and where they are in the standings, you can be rest assured they know what they're getting. So Chris should he shouldn't worry that he has to prove anything, because the only thing he has to prove is his hard work and his ability to be coachable and learn the system, because they know what they're getting. That 2013 or 2011, whatever years they won the Stanley Cup with Chris Versteeg, that's who they traded for.
Right.
So that's all Chris has to bring is what he's brought before, and not feel the pressure of having to try and make the team or get in the lineup, because he's slotted wherever he is on the board in the back room where the coaches spend all their time. He's slotted in position already on where he's going to play.
And does it help a little bit that I think about a month ago the Kings picked up Lecavalier and
that veteran leadership helps at all, or as well. He was the captain for the Lightning when they won. He may not be the same player he was when they won it back then, but when that's your fourth line or third line forward, that really helps out a guy like Toffoli and Pearson.
Right.
Because they're their rock to follow or to lean on.
Because they've accomplished.
Yeah, right. Like Toffoli doesn't have to look back and see a guy he played with in the minors. If Toffoli misses an open net early on in the game, may think, I'm supposed to be the guy that's supposed to score that.
Right.
Now the guys behind me in the depth chart on the team, I played with him. They weren't the goal scorers that I am in the minors at this level. They're not even close. But then you got guys like Lecavalier or Versteeg. Those guys they're gonna pot a couple big timely goals.
Right.
That's gonna ease the tension for a guy like Toffoli. And then Toffoli will have those big games because that pressure is taken off of a younger, star forward.
Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, how does it feel? I'm just going to mention names. I'm not trying to,
I don't think you try to do anything wrong or mean.
Well, absolutely. No, I mean,
you don't have to.
I don't, I'm fans of both these guys that I'm going to mention. How does it feel like when a guy like Versteeg is brought in and you're like, say, Andrioff or Jordan Nolan?
It's tough.
Maybe even Clifford to a degree. It's like, I mean, obviously, you're happy to Lombardi's improving the team,
right? You're happy, and it happens even with the top guys, right? Because maybe now, because Versteeg has worked the half wall on the power play before, maybe if you're not having a good game, you get bumped off that as a top six forward. You kind of get that little like knee jerk reaction, like fuck, right? Your initial reaction is like, I wish she wasn't here. That's a natural human reaction, right?
Just to yourself.
Yeah, but the difference between, the rec league player who says that and holds that grudge and the consummate pro is they look at themselves right away, like, what do I got to do better? Right. And that position isn't going to be given up to him for that long. It's more of a reminder, and that's a guy that can fill in adequately while you get your shit together. So, that as a player like Jordan Nolan and other guys who see a guy like Versteeg come in who hasn't worn the Kings colors as long as they have and won the cups, the game changes. You have to make adjustments. Obviously, the team's not the same it was when I won it with the Kings. There's been changes made. And I would say, do you guys want to win a third one, or are you just happy with two? Right? We know what we're doing. Obviously, we've won two already. So we're bringing pieces that we think will help us, and we'll figure out very quickly whether or not Versteeg is helping or having a neutral or negative impact on the team. And that's an issue on some teams, but I don't see it being an issue on a team like the Kings or the Blackhawks or the Ducks, because they have the leadership to pick up any guys with maybe a a sad look or like a look like they lost their puppy because now I'm getting less minutes because Versteeg's in or LeCavier.
Right.
They all want that. They all want to fill their hand up with more rings.
Right, like a guy like Scuderi coming back.
Yeah.
I imagine that. I don't know who the seventh defenseman on the Kings is.
Well, Greener wasn't playing that much.
And he's coming back, or, he's skating again. I mean, as a fan, it bums me out like that King team that won the cup with you on it.
Yeah.
I really wanted you guys to stay together because it was like.
What was the first one?
Yeah.
I always remember your first, right?
Oh, Maritza, if you're out there.
Mine was Taryn.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wait, what are we talking about?
Well, I mean, we're not talking hockey when I'm dropping a Maritza reference.
Okay.
Although her last name was Martinez. Thank you very much, Alec, for potting that second one. But
that's another guy. It's interesting. He was just to kind of keep up with it, but maybe go off base a bit.
No, please.
Is a guy that wasn't sure he was going to be if he was going to be traded. Wasn't getting a lot of ice time. Was kind of up and down emotionally during that year I was playing with him, and then the next year when I think we lost in the conference finals to Chicago, he wasn't playing a lot. The next year he comes back and I get to watch him score those goals. So I was at Staples Center, and now he's the second coming.
You should have still been there, but that's another.
But it was just one of those things that you never know as an athlete, where your path will take you. So the best thing to do is just control what you can control, which is your work ethic. And, I'm very proud of Marty for what he's been able to accomplish, because if you would have asked him the year we lived together, if you ever would have dreamed that he'd be immortalized.
Yeah, I mean,
he would have laughed you out of the room.
Now, is it tough? Like, I know there was a feature, I think, on the NHL Network on you getting traded from Edmonton to LA. And it really, like, as a fan, it's almost like fantasy hockey. Like, oh, great, we got Dustin Penner and we gave up Colton Tuber.
A couple of bags of pucks.
I mean, I guess, respectfully, yeah, probably. I mean, as a fan, it's like we don't really see the human. God damn it, the phone's ringing in the middle of the podcast. No, it's probably the Gem Sports Bar.
I want you to renew your membership.
Listen, I've never done this before. I'm doing the middle of a podcast with an NHL player, whoever this is. You got to call back. And just hung up on him. No respect. Welcome to Hollywood. It's respect. But it showed when you were leaving the Edmonton locker room that final time. All the equipment managers and team employees were really sad. Yeah. And I mean, what's it like? Because you were a player in Edmonton, who I guess was. I guess you'd say on the bubble in terms, do we keep him? Do we let him go? Do we trade him to rebuild? Is that mentally though?
Wait, we're saying trade him to rebuild in Edmonton? Because they've been rebuilding for a while.
Well, I mean, listen, they say Donald Trump takes a while to get a project going. We're going to get into that too. I mean, let me tell you something right now. I'm just an idiot fan, full disclosure, but they've got more young boys in Edmonton than Sandusky's basement. I mean, it's out of control here. Might help if you draft a defenseman. I'm just saying.
It's they might have finally got it right with Connor McDavid.
But even
not saying nothing against Eberle and Hall and Gagne and Cogliano and
Nugent Hopkins. I mean,
but it just they need. You can only have so many
goals. I mean, offensive players.
Yeah, you see, like, there's only one Kopitar. There's only one Kane. And you got to be able to find those in every draft, right? If you're going to be first overall. Not just pick the number one rated skater.
Right.
Right? It depends on what you need. Like the way the NFL drafts, I tend to like a lot more, where whatever position they're deficient in, they draft the best player in that position.
Right.
And they say, well, they should just take the best player because he's the best player. Well, then if you do that, then you better make sure you can trade him for the best position you need, whether it's a defenseman or goalie, right? Turn that first pick into something, because there's been an outcry, I think, from the league, like people saying, not another first overall pick for him.
Right.
And you see how many first overall picks or first round picks have left the Oilers in the last 6 years.
I mean,
Smid, Cogliano, Gagne.
Yeah, I mean,
they had 12 first rounders on that team when I was there.
And they weren't like necessarily the best team. I mean,
it's interesting. One of my buddies who I played college hockey with texted me today. He goes, the only person to score more goals than you since you were there is Jordan Eberle, and that was 34 when I had 32. And I was just absolutely crucified in my years in Edmonton.
That's another thing I want to get into. You've played in every conceivable hockey market. Edmonton. I've done comedy there. There's nothing to do up there.
Bronson?
Rick Bronson.
Yeah.
Great Rick Bronson. Yeah. Tell him we're buds now. I'll get rebooked. It's tough business, man.
I bet.
It's all kinds of wacky
I might put a show on one day. A comedy show with me, Jessa Hinton and Lisa Ann. And
I don't, but,
there's a few other, Rob Fee at all?
I don't. I'm like Motorhead. I have a cult following.
Okay.
I should be bigger than I am. A lot of bad career decisions.
Is that what you tell the guys at the gym?
Well, do you want me to tell you the steam room stories? And the steam room things I see, man. I don't know what it's like in an NHL locker room. I've been in an NHL locker room once. My friend used to be the stick boy in the Kings, and long before you were around. Yeah. And he took me in the locker room, and it was, I'll never forget this, Mark Hardy, who I'm not sure if you know.
I know the name.
Older defenseman. He used to play in the Kings, Rangers. He had the most chiseled body I've ever seen on an athlete. I mean, he looked like a bodybuilder. And then around the corner walks Jimmy Carson, who I don't know if you.
I remember the name.
He was a big deal because he was the number one pick for the Kings, and I think he had in his first 2 seasons in the league, he had like 98 goals, and then we traded him, I think, for Paul Coffey. But he had maybe the worst body I've ever seen on a man.
It's funny how more times than not, this isn't 100% certainty, but the most skilled star players on a team don't necessarily have the most ripped and chiseled bodies, right? They're big and strong, right? But the guy like Marilyn Mew couldn't bench press his own weight 10 times when he got into the league. Wayne Gretzky wasn't, ripping the hinges off the squat rack.
No.
It's and then you see the guys who have to be, because like the best in shape guy, on one of the teams I played with was Joe DePenta, like ripped up like a bad report card.
Right.
And it was
right.
But he was the 7th, 6th D man.
Right.
You can't give him an excuse to send you down or cut you.
I mean, the best, I think, body I've ever seen on an NHL player was, I'm not bragging, but I was the celebrity endorser for Christoph Oliwa's clothing line, which me and Barry Melrose. And not going to lie, company went out of business in 2 weeks. I tried to tell him. He was doing this, like, sweat, like, FUBU type of thing. I'm like, dude, you're a white guy from Poland. Like, no one's going to buy this.
Yeah.
And, but, I was just happy for the free merch. but I mean, I don't know what it's like in the NHL locker room outside my one experience, but the steam room at Equinox is out of control. I mean,
I can't imagine. It must just be.
Well, let's just say the first day I walked in, it looked like a football huddle. And they were playing Snatch the Bacon.
Yeah. Jesus.
Well, no, listen, like I said, I live on Larrabee.
Yeah, it's not. I'm just saying it's just an interesting, because it's such a different world from sports. Like in the steam room in hockey, you get in there and everybody has a Bud Light after the game, shooting the shit. And now it's almost kind of like it sounds very sceney.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I know I'm actually, this is a serious question. I'm not a very serious guy, as you can tell, but I know a couple years ago, I think 2 years ago, there was a big deal about Michael Sam being the first openly gay. That
was actually my best tweet on record.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was it?
I had like 10,000 retweets and favorites. I said, I don't care if my teammate's gay or straight as long as he doesn't listen to Nickelback.
Well, I'm a Nickelback fan. I'm going to block you. But I mean, I know in hockey, it's not really talked about a lot, but if a player came out as openly gay in the NHL, do you think it would be a big deal?
I think it'd be a big deal because everybody they want to make things a big deal.
Right.
The guys that don't care, like it's not wouldn't be an issue with me, but people want to make a big deal of it. Right. It's the same. I mean, there was a KKK rally in Anaheim recently, right?
I did the cold open. It was tight 10 minutes.
I was supposed to follow up, but never got around to it.
They couldn't find a hood big enough for you. But that was great. Yeah, 3.
But what I'm saying is this, what I liken it with if a hypothetical player would have come out as gay is if no one shows up to the KK rally to protest, it's just a bunch of people chanting about their own group, right? It's like, but we have to make a big deal of it and show up there, and you're not going to know one ghost, I think, is going to change their mind.
Yeah.
So anyways, with gay athletes, it only becomes a big deal when someone shoves a mic in your face and goes, "What do you think of having a gay teammate? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?" And you're like, "Well, I didn't think anything until you kept shoving a fucking mic in my face every day. Now I'm running out of things to say, like, oh, it's fine, I don't care, each to their own."
Right.
And then they started like picking on, whether he kind of looked up to the left, so he must be lying, or
right. The Tony Robbins, mind.
Just like, man, just leave me the fuck alone. I'm here to play hockey. I'm not gonna date him. Okay, so why ask me? Like, it's one of those things. Like, it must.
I think we live in a TMZ world now where it's like they want to get one sound bite that they can play.
Just want to like it, where they go. They ask you like a hypothetical, or they present you a hypothetical situation, and that actually becomes a comment, not a question, and just hand the mic and open them up. Go, huh?
Right.
Like you hang yourself with the mic cord.
Yeah. Trying to make you look bad. I mean, they get more benefit out of making you look bad than they do a well thought out question.
Well, that's how I got the nickname Pancakes, right? Like, I didn't injure my back eating pancakes. I said I sat down to eat pancakes my wife made, and as I sat down, my back gave out. Freak thing, it could have been attributed to me getting the numerous cross checks to the back, and that was just the tipping point at that moment. Carrying my marriage on my back. God, was that heavy?
Yeah,
that's the most weight I ever lost, and it just took one paper to sign. I lost like 120 pounds.
Well, I hope it wasn't in California. I know
it was.
Oh, sorry.
How long is this mic for? Can we get to the roof?
Well, listen, let me Periscope this. We might have the first live. I need the podcast numbers, to be honest with you. My highest rated podcast ever was the Rowdy Roddy Piper podcast I did.
God.
Because I was co-hosting his podcast, and the day he died, the number shot up big. So listen, if you want to...
Rest in peace.
He was the best. I mean,
I believe it.
I don't know if you're a pro wrestling fan.
I am. I remember... do you remember The Claw? Von Raschke?
Oh, absolutely. Baron Von Raschke.
Yeah, I watched him wrestle in Winkler, Manitoba, where I'm from.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I saw that. They, I think the WWE was... or WWF.
It was WWF, but he wasn't part of that. It was like even like... It was the ECHL of wrestling.
Oh, boy.
Going around all these... Christian Bible Belt towns at the time. I remember driving in my parents' Ford LTD with brown interior and brown paint job with my two buddies on the way to Grand Forks, North Dakota, driving 2.5 hours in the snow, flat tire, had to get out, change it, call from the Motorola flip phone that was plugged into the car, telling them we had the flat tire. Change it and made it to WCW Nitro for the Nitro Girls Monday night. Best night of my life.
WCW, they had a good run.
Oh, Eric Bischoff. Remember when Hogan changed sides there?
That was like wrestling 9/11. It really was. I mean,
I still get shivers down the back of my neck thinking of him turning on him.
Because it was so... Well, it was the best wrestling angle, and for those of you who don't know, we're talking about 1996 Bash at the Beach. It was Hulk. No, it was Hall and Nash and a secret partner, and then Sting, Luger, and Macho Man. And what the WWE has done to Sting is embarrassing, but that's another podcast. And then Hogan comes out thinking that He's going to save the day.
Yeah.
Poor Sting is left on his own, and he drops the leg on Macho Man, and that was
Not to mention they dropped
Luger.
Yeah, and Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Hulk Hogan dropping the leg on Macho Man was like seeing the second plane hit the tower. Yeah. It's like, oh my God. It was, and listen, I obviously that was an awful day in history and a bad day.
Humor comes from pain.
It does. I mean, because I know a King Scout, Ace Bailey was, and Mark Bavis, I think.
Yep.
So, that's how I try and get through tragedies, make fun of stuff like that.
Like that's where I find what you say funny, and I probably get it from my grandmother who recently passed in last year, and don't say anything like I'm so sorry because you didn't know her, but she was one of those people where I called 18 months ago asking how she's doing, and her first words were still alive. I'm like, I know it sucks. It's one of those things when you get older.
I lost both my parents 2 months apart, and I got a great joke out of it. Obviously, I loved them both, but when my mom died first, the guy they put me in charge of the finances, which shows you my parents. Look
at all the walls of CDs and jerseys.
Well, I'm Jewish, so listen, I could turn a penny into a fucking copper mine. But I go down to the funeral parlor, and I don't know if you've ever had to do this. It's the worst thing in the world. But the guy was trying to sell me a $25,000 casket for my mom, and he's selling it to me as if it's a car. He's like, he's touching it like you would the inside of a Rolls Royce. Your mom's going to be very comfortable. There's lots of leg room. Like, leg room? She's fucking dead. She's going to be shortening up.
Imagine I would.
It was my mom, and I was very close to her. And then 2 months later, my dad passed. Son of a bitch tries to sell me the same casket. I mean, he was the Gene Simmons of casket makers.
I would have actually went along. Do you have something with air conditioning?
Yeah.
Stitch.
Yeah. Can I get a Kiss coffin as Gene? Can you call Gene on the hotline? So, I try and use.
I actually met him a few times because I know his daughter,
Sophie.
Yeah. Very nice girl.
Yeah, no, I've met the fan. I see his son every day at the gym. Who looks just like him, like a younger Gene. And,
his son's actually not a fan of mine.
Oh, why not?
Because I have a humor that rubs people the wrong way.
I like it though.
Yeah, and then I guess I said something to Sophie on Twitter, and then he went after me because he didn't realize I was joking.
Right.
So then I went after him to be a dick. Like, oh, okay, like you're going to be sensitive.
Right.
So then he ended up, I think, blocking me. It was pretty funny.
Well, listen, I've been blocked by Stone Cold Steve Austin. So,
that
bothers
me that Stone Cold would do that.
It really does. And this podcast is about you, not about me. But I was, Rowdy Roddy had a comedian, very funny comic by the name of Will Sasso.
Yeah.
Do an impression of Stone Cold, and it was harmless. Nothing. Stone Cold has some personal issues. Nothing was said about them. It's just a harmless impression. So I believe Stone Cold had Rowdy and I kicked off of this podcast network. We then go to another one. We get kicked off of that one, and Rowdy died about 2 months later. So I believe that it to a degree, Stone Cold. No, I'm being serious. I don't want to get sued. So, I believe that, Rowdy Roddy, 61 years old, which for a pro wrestler is like 700. I mean,
it really is.
Those guys have the mortality rate of a 9/11 pilot. I mean, you look at like very few NHL players, pass away, in their 40s. I mean, maybe
we're getting. I was going to say up there, but that would be the antithesis of it. But there's a lot of guys dying at a young age.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know in the last 5 years, not to bring it down, but we've had Mr. Bugard, Belak, Rippon, Montador. Maybe one or two. So,
but there's a lot of athletes. Like I know, I'm at the the peak. I've actually might have passed my peak.
Yeah, I mean, this Listen,
I'm 33. If I make it to 66, that kind of be poetic because my favorite player was Marilyn Mew.
right. Well, that's my. I'm 47. I'd like to make it to 69, and then just go to Jim's Sports Bar.
Go out with a bang, huh?
Yeah, I'll go out with a bang. And what I want to do is I want to get buried at that sports bar with my ass sticking out of the ground.
That bottle of Astroglide.
So my friends can stop off and have a cold one. But I mean,
Even in the afterlife, they're fucking you in the ass, huh?
well, listen, I'm exit only back there, but I'm 405 north, no southbound lanes. You know, this is taking a turn I didn't think I would. My first NHL player in the house. If Gary Bettman hears this interview, he might block both of us.
I don't think he follows me.
I don't know. He definitely doesn't follow me. I've only got like 6,000 followers, but you know, but in the world of pro wrestling, you know, I think there's a thing you can Google pro wrestlers who've died at 55 and under, and it's like literally 150 names, and all mostly faint, like Rick Rude. You know, I mean, so many names you can't even. One just died. Macho Man. You know, Ultimate Warrior, and I met him once, and I tell you, I don't get starstruck often, but he had an autograph signing just up the street at a record store, and I had a friend who represented him. Yeah. He's like, "Earl, you don't want to meet him. He's kind of a dick." And I'm just Ultimate Warrior is like my guy, so I went there. It's 300 people. I was last in line. I'm praying that no one sees me waiting in this line. Of course, I see like 10 people who know me. Like, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm just here to get the new Slipknot record. Because I have like an Ultimate Warrior shirt on.
You got the tassels on your biceps.
I'm the last guy in line. I get up there, and he couldn't have been any nicer. He's in full makeup.
Yeah.
Jacked, you know, and I had to look at his feet. I was so starstruck. I'm like, Mr. Warrior, it's very nice to meet you. And he's like, Earl, are you a fan? I'm like, yes, Mr. Warrior. Can you sign this, please? I couldn't look at him. It was like seeing Superman. And he passed away. And I know he tried to pass away live on Raw. He passed away the night after Raw, where he basically did his own eulogy. It was really bizarre. Like he was talking about every man bleeds, and when he dies, his blood flows through others, and 18 hours later, he's dead.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, you know, it's the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
He was on to 9/11 long before. In 90, when him and Hogan fought, and I think it was 91 WrestleMania, Sky Dome, he gave a promo where he said, Hulk Hogan, tear down the cockpit doors, dispose of the pilots, and fly into the towers. I'm telling you, it's crazy. He was no dummy. Huh. I mean, he was no Christoph Oliwa, but I mean, who was?
Where were we?
Well, we started talking about the gay sports bar I go to. Then we got into, you know.
We did start heading down the 405 South, it seemed.
Right. Well, we were talking about what I was into sexually. And, you know, let's try and, you know, because I know you got to go.
I really don't.
Okay. Oh, boy, this interview just got longer. We were talking about you and the Kings.
Yeah.
Versteeg,
he must be playing. The game must be over by now.
I think Versteeg just scored a goal. No, but see, this is the beauty of this podcast. It's called Inappropriate Earl. It really should be.
I think we've been inappropriate so far.
Well, it fits. But, you know, you have a great sense of humor. Some guys who come in here are like, what are you talking about?
Well, thank you. I that's the one thing I'm probably self-conscious about, is because I have a lot of friends who are writers and comedians. And it's one thing to know you're funny amongst your friends and growing up, but to be known funny amongst funny people.
It's tough.
It is.
Well, it's also like, I don't know. You don't know me. It's like you might be a reborn Christian for all I know.
I started off, you know, Christian. I'm not saying if my parents are listening, which they probably won't unless this takes a turn down the 405 South and it gets back to them. But it's you know, you grow up in a Christian Mennonite community, and you know, to steal a line from Jim Jeffries, asking why is like cancer,
right?
to a church, right? Like why? So I've I've probably moved away from believing that everything you hear from a pastor or priest is the undisputed truth.
Well, listen, I was an altar boy for 10 years, wasn't molested once, so that's how low my self-esteem is. And I'm a good-looking guy.
Yeah, that's what's wrong with me. I've been to the Abbey here. I didn't get hit on, and that's when I started questioning.
Well, the Abbey's the real deal. I mean, whatever you're into is at the Abbey. And I mean, whatever. Well, it gets back to I think if someone was gay in the NHL, you certainly can't say everyone is from a small town in Canada in the NHL, but you have Ovechkins from Russia and many different countries. But I was raised hardcore Catholic, Beverly Hills. A Jew
You never were molested. Hardcore Catholic sounds like.
Well, I mean, I recently got kicked off a Christian mingle for asking a girl if she did anal, but
it wasn't a Mormon chat room then.
No, it was Christian. I mean, I thought it's a Catholic website. Anal's got to be on the table.
That way they keep what they want to keep.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm now on Plenty of Fish, and let me tell you, there's no fish on that side. There's a lot of whales. Jesus Christ.
Did you change your username to Jonah?
Well, no, I have a code name when I go on those types of websites. My name on any dating app is Zenon Konopka. So see, that bring it back full circle.
That's a good. You like old Zenon or Zenon.
Zenon.
Zenon almost sounds like a TV.
Well, he came to one of my comedy shows in Beverly Hills once. There was and I'm surprised I didn't meet you. The Beverly Hills Friars Club, of course, it's no more. Every Thursday night would have a comedy show, and for about 2 years, it was the hottest show in town. And the Kings and Ducks would all show up there if they didn't have a game, and that's where I met him, and Peros was there, and Brennan, and many more. LaBarber came. Joffrey Lupul was there, and because this guy, the owner, was real shady dude, and all the employees were prostitutes. So it was a great vibe.
It sounds like a missed opportunity.
If they ever come back, you'll be the first call I make.
Okay, good. You got my number.
I do now. And but Zenon was, I used to wear hockey jerseys on stage.
Yeah.
Because I was so petrified. I had such stage fright. You probably wondered when you walked up to that room, why do you have all this? I had such stage fright when I started that I thought, well, if I wear a shirt that's been fought in, I'll be protected.
I like that thinking.
It's embarrassing. I'm being completely...
but I'm being sincere when I say I like that thinking.
But I believe in the aura of, you put a jersey on that Link Gates fought in, so you're protected.
Yeah.
It's like, in these numerous ball hockey trophies, I won most of them wearing game-worn gloves of, my favorite players. You can buy them. I don't know what you do with your old gloves.
They're lying around somewhere. I probably use them to pick up some of my dog's excrement.
Well, listen, 2 girls in 1 cup will work. I want to do a hockey movie.
You're funny you mentioned that. My username on NHL Game Center is 1 guy, 2 cups.
Well, listen, that probably was filmed in this neighborhood. I want to do, because I know, you've had a couple big contracts, and you seem like a smart guy. You saved your money. I'd like to finance a movie called 2 Girls in a Stanley Cup. It's,
They'd have to eat for a few days beforehand and not go to the bathroom to fill it up.
Right, yeah. Well, what we'll do is we'll have me eat a couple Staples Center hot dogs. And
or maybe the Dodger dogs.
Well, those Dodger dogs are I'm telling you, man, they're rough. I mean,
it's funny when you get to a certain age where you actually got to plan your next 24 hours after you eat the meal.
Well, I'm just filmed a toilet paper commercial, and it was great. It's ridged. It's for the new ridged Charmin toilet paper, and I don't know what's coming out of your ass that you have to have grooved toilet paper now. But I'm going to get money from it. So,
all from wiping your ass, huh?
Well, I can imagine you've been in many locker rooms. I can only imagine. Now, when does an NHL player this is a serious question. You guys eat a pregame meal, I'm guessing around 5 o'clock?
No, Pre-game meal. I'll quickly run you through a game day.
Please do.
So if they're playing at 7:30 tonight or 7, depending on traffic, I guess.
In LA.
Well, they switch the game depending on traffic in the playoffs. I know that, but let's go for argument's sake at 7 p.m. start. That means you wake up at 8 a.m. You're at the rink by 9. You're on the ice by 10. You're off the ice by 10:30, quarter to 11. Then you're watching game film at 11:30, and you're out of the rink by noon. You're at your place back. They still go to Freedomista in Hermosa, and you eat lunch there around 12:30, and you're in your bed by 1:30, nap till 3, up at quarter after 3, in the car quarter to 4, at the rink by 4:30, and then you start getting ready for the game. So last time you eat is around 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Oh, wow. But when you go into the locker room to do like fruits and stuff like that.
Yeah, bagels.
But they don't have like cooked
they had. Well, the Kings would have like a little bit of. They were getting into like the gluten-free pasta, just a little bit, maybe like a bowl of chicken noodle soup, something like that, just to give you a little bit of sugar or carbohydrates. But you don't eat a big meal 2 hours before a game.
And in between periods, what would you energy drinks? And I mean, did you ever do the energy drink thing?
Yeah.
Or?
Oh yeah. I'd have 5 different water bottles filled up with energy drinks, different variations of them, supplements, 5-hour energy, Advil, Cold and Sinus, those Gatorade gummies, power bars,
right,
bananas, everything.
When do you take a dump? I mean,
well, when you're
like during the game, I mean, do you ever have time? Like, I guess in between periods?
In between periods, but the beauty of the human body is that it actually shuts down the GI tract there, and you don't have to worry about it till after the game.
Because I would imagine if you're in between, whether you're winning or losing, and you say, hey, Coach Sutter, I got to take a dump. He doesn't seem like the guy who would have the best.
Right, he wouldn't go right this way.
Yeah. Please, Dustin.
Here, take this roll of Ridge toilet paper I got from Earl.
Yeah. Well, my toilet paper commercial is going to air right after all Arby's commercials.
It's a good spot.
Well, I mean, if you've ever had 5 sandwiches for $1, you're reaching for the...
You're eating the 5th one on the toilet, huh?
Yeah, you're reaching for the brawny. Forget the toilet paper. Take a fucking beach towel.
The janitorial staff actually is the 6th man.
Yeah.
Of any sporting team.
7th man is the toilet paper fucking distributor. I mean, thank you, Jared from Subway. Jesus, that guy was out of control. I mean, thank God he's not in Edmonton. He'd have a field day with that team.
Jeez.
Well, I mean, I think he was set up by Quiznos. I think it was a sting operation.
It's possible.
It's possible. I mean, that guy.
Anything is.
Yeah, sorry, we got off in the wrong. Well, no, I only bring up Jared from Subway because it was an article yesterday saying he's gained 30 pounds in prison. So apparently a steady diet of dick will do that to you.
Fatten you right up.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to start eating Jersey Mike's. They just bumped into number 2. But listen, I could talk all day about stuff. Now, I guess you are fully retired?
Not fully. I haven't filed papers or anything, but I like to keep people in the dark as far as that goes.
Right. Because you seem in good shape. I mean, you seem like you could step onto the ice as is.
I could step onto ice as is. I don't think I'd like to get in a National League hockey game right now.
I mean, what would be the process? Let's just say next July you get the itch. Do you start calling teams saying, hey, I guess you arrange a tryout?
Something like that, I guess you could do.
Did you like your time in Washington?
I did. It's other than, breaking a couple of vertebrae in my neck, it was great.
But other than that, it was a good time.
Yeah. I enjoyed the team there and, the coaching staff and the ownership, and the city was quite nice too.
And then what's it like? I don't want to rap. I could talk to you all day, man. And we might. I mean, do you like playing in a hockey city like, say, Edmonton, where it's the team is such a focus of everyone. I can imagine you can't go get gas where it's like, oh my God, that's Dustin Penner. Hey, take a picture. Or coming to LA, which, isn't necessarily a hockey town. Do you like both?
There's the obviously cliche answer is there's pros and cons to both. But
what would be the?
I'd like to try playing in a hockey city where you're winning the Stanley Cup and the best team, but there might not be a worse place to play, in a hockey city that when you're dead last in the league for 3.5 years.
Like Edmonton.
Yeah, it was. You couldn't go anywhere without getting booed. I think I got booed at dinner.
Well, because you were, when you're one of the more higher paid guys on on a losing team, it's like, hey, you're making X amount of money. Why aren't you? You can only do so much.
Yeah, it's they always need a scapegoat or a lightning rod to release their frustrations on, and that was my cross to bear, I think, when I was there.
Because you're so you give such a great interview, and is it? Do you sometimes wish you weren't such a good interview where people would want to talk to you? Like
I try to get that way, by trying to scare off reporters by putting them on the spot.
Right.
But that only made them want you more.
Does it bother you that most reporters, look like they've never played a sport in their life? Like
that's the underlying feeling. Is obviously there's some reporters that haven't played the game that have the wherewithal to understand that what they're asking they may not know enough about to be an expert on the topic. But then there's some that think because they've worked as a writer for blogs or for certain publications for 20 years, 15 years, that they know enough about the game by watching it on TV or from the press box.
Like me.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of things that go into hockey that a lot of people don't see, won't see, and can't understand.
Right. Like, if you gave me stand-up advice, I'm not saying I necessarily wouldn't take it.
I wouldn't give you it, though.
But I mean...
That's the... You know what I mean? Like, what I liken some of the advice or unsolicited opinions of reporters that I've gotten in the past to me saying to you, like, just be more funny when you go on stage.
That's good advice, though. Believe me. I mean, I'm like the little engine.
Do what you're doing, but funnier.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would never dream of telling you, hey, man, you could have shot a little harder that time.
Yeah, I'd probably look at you like, how'd you get in here?
Well, as you can see, I've got many ball hockey trophies in the lowest division.
Well, pardon me.
I mean, I know what I'm doing. But, I mean, that drives me insane when I see, like when I watch the NHL Network and they have Jeremy Roenick. Okay, he could give advice. He's, maybe the greatest American-born player, one of them. But I tell you, when I see, and I know he played in the NHL, but when Mike Milbury starts giving GM advice, it's like, Jesus, you were like one of the worst GMs ever. I mean,
there's know what you know and know what you don't know, and a lot of people can't differentiate between the two. Yeah,
I mean, it's like I'm sure he's a great guy, and he grew up in an era that I loved watching. The early '80s, which was like jungle hockey. But it's like when he starts criticizing other GMs' moves, it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, I've seen better GMs on Sega Genesis than you. But that's and then EJ, who's the McGuire?
Pierre McGuire.
It's
the same feeling you have is a sentiment that's carried on throughout the players in the league.
It's like, if you were so good, I remember when you coached the Hartford Whalers, man, you weren't exactly Scotty Bowman.
Yeah, they left, I think, because of him.
Yeah, I mean, they picked up their green whale and moved to Carolina. Little known fact, when Carolina won the Stanley Cup, they had to share their parade route with the KKK. It was dual parade.
Was it?
This is unbelievable. 2 phone calls. I'm going to have to hang up on this person. I forgot where Listen, I'm doing a podcast with an NHL player. I don't know who this is, but I got to hang up on you. Show a little respect. I actually recognized the phone number. It was John Barbados on Melrose calling. I tell you, you buy two $2,500 jackets and they think you're fucking made of money. I mean, I'm just a humble comic who had rich parents. All right, so I don't want to wrap this up because, what my goal, Dustin, is for people to listen to this podcast and go, I want the two of them to do another podcast. I don't want to shoot our wad all in one.
We could. I think we have a lot more material to get through.
Well, we do. You're not just an NHL player. I'm going to get you back in the league. Of course, I want maybe a pair of gloves in return.
We'll get you some memorabilia.
No, but here's the thing. See, I want to get back to the aura. I'm going to return to my ball hockey league. And this is like, I'm going to pay you for them. And I know you don't need the money, but this is about...
I don't want to get paid in dollars. You can find, whether it's an old VHS maybe you got here or something.
No. It's all about respect.
Okay.
I know you don't need the money, but I want to pay you for a pair of game issued, because I like mine new. Maybe worn once or twice. Dustin Penner gloves. Because if I put my hands in a pair of gloves that I know you've played in or practiced in, I feel like I get the dust. It's like when I wore the jerseys because I was afraid. I feel like that transference of goal scoring ability.
Well, maybe I'll come join you in an exhibition.
Oh, I would love to bring you to my ball hockey league, not tell anyone who you are. I mean, you're pretty recognizable. Maybe put you in a beard or something.
Yeah.
Hey, this is my friend Jim. He's never played before. Just throw him out there.
Jim from the gym.
Yeah, Jim from Jim, the sports bar. See you at the steam room. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, Jesus, I was in the steam room.
Guy can work the corners like no one else.
Listen, he works the corners, the middle of the room. I mean, it goes 12 hole.
Yeah.
Well, Dustin, this is the part, and once again, you don't need my money for your gloves and maybe a tall stick if you have an uncut stick.
Okay.
You
want uncircumcised.
Well, because I bought a Zdeno Chara stick. See, this goes back to my wacky thinking going, if I buy a Zdeno Chara stick that he's actually touched and played in, I'll have his shot. And it worked.
I'm not sure if there's science to support that, but...
Oh, I'm completely wrong. I'm very weak mentally. Before I go to the gym and lift heavy, I watched the training scene in Rocky 2.
That's a good scene. Hearts on Fire?
No, that's Rocky 4.
That's Rocky 4.
Robert Tepper, Hearts on Fire. Hearts on Fire. With nice keyboard.
You don't listen to, if it's Rocky 2, then it's James Brown.
No, that's Rocky 3.
Damn it.
Listen, I have a very obscure... Well, I want to talk about one thing.
I've embarrassed myself enough, I think.
No, you haven't, because what I'm about to talk about, I think, if you're not a Dustin Penner fan now, you will be after this story. Dustin came to my home. First of all, thank you very much. All seriousness, I know that when I asked you...
Thanks for having me.
Well, I know you get asked to do a lot of these things, and I'd like to thank our mutual friend Jen Sturger for, I guess, vouching for me to a degree.
And vouching for me.
Well, yeah, but you drove a long way to do this, and you came here with a German Shepherd in the back of your car, a police dog named Ryback. Yes, Ryback.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was named after the pro wrestler Ryback. And it is not. And if anything gets into my heart more than naming your dog after a pro wrestler, it's naming your dog after the Steven Seagal character in Under Siege, Casey Ryback. And so if you don't like Dustin Penner now, it ain't ever going to happen. I mean,
it might not for somebody. I think we may have brought a few over.
I think I just lost 12 Twitter followers by that. I named one of my dogs after when I was a little kid. I know it's hard that I didn't come out of my mom's womb this size. I saw a boxing match between Larry Holmes, probably before your time. So when were you born?
82.
Larry Holmes was around the heavyweight champ in that era. He fought a guy, big, huge white guy named Randall Tex Cobb. And Tex Cobb literally threw in a 15-round fight 4 punches. And he just laughed at Larry Holmes, hit me again. And he became more known for his acting. But I was so impressed at his ability to take a punch, I named my dog, little Yorkie named Tex.
Nice.
Got hit by a car 2 years in, but
didn't laugh it off, I guess.
he took it. He was just like Tex Cobb.
There you go.
Happened right in front of me.
Had he not had the name, he might not have made it.
So it goes back to I had a Zdeno Chara stick. I then had the hardest shot in the league.
You should start like a Scientologist type thing with that.
I'm a weird guy. Like when I put on Donald Brashear's gloves, I feel tougher. I don't fight, but
the feeling is there.
It's just a weird thing.
It's not tangible, only to you maybe.
Like if you, it sounds completely insane. If you said to me, Earl, here's the jersey. Now I would never wear this jersey to play in a ball hockey game, but if I said to you, Dustin, I got my first TV stand-up set on Conan O'Brien next Tuesday. I want to wear that shirt you were wearing when you scored the OT winner in Phoenix. I know I would have the set of my life because of what that shirt meant for LA hockey. Is that crazy or not?
I wouldn't say it's that crazy.
Well, let's work on that. I would give the shirt back to you, but I just say, can I? I'm assuming you keep some of your shirts.
If you get that spot, then you can wear the jersey.
So you do have that shirt.
I do,
because as when the Kings won the cup, you got to keep I'm assuming.
Yeah, we got the jerseys that we wore.
All right. Well, now that I've turned this into a fucking swap meet, Dustin, where can people find you on Twitter?
At Dustin Penner 25.
And there's an underscore.
No.
Or is it just Dustin Penner 25? Yeah. So that's DUSTINPENNER, the number 25 for some of my fans who. And you must do Instagram.
I do.
Same thing at Dustin.
No, it's DD2725 or DD2527. I think it's on the Twitter.
And is there anything you would like to plug? You got any appearances?
Not unless we're heading down to the gym.
Right. Well, I tell you what, we're going to organize the first Inappropriate Earl watch party. Maybe when the Kings. What are your predictions for the Stanley Cup?
I think it'll be Kings versus Blackhawks in the conference, with dark horse going to the Ducks. You know, it's gonna one of those three teams is gonna come out of the West.
I believe it's going to be the Kings and the Capitals.
That would be fantastic.
And before we let you go, you've been traded a few times. What is it like? Let's say the Kings and the Capitals play in the Stanley Cup Finals. Now it's well known. Mike Richards, Jeff Carter, best of friends. It's Game 7. Loose puck in the corner. They don't take it easy on each other. It's like you don't like. You've obviously played against friends,
yeah.
And what is it like to like in that particular case? Like, who was your best friend in the league?
Probably playing against Perry or Getzlaf.
And Perry's known to maybe chirp a little bit, and he's certainly not a fighter, but I like kind of a very highly skilled agitator.
Yeah.
Did he after you left the Ducks? Did he like talk shit to you?
Oh yeah, there's even video of me and him when I was playing for I think it was the Kings, where I cross-checked him in the back and then landed on him and cross-checked him again, and he lay down swimming on the ice like a dead fish. And he was pissed at the time, but then we laughed about it after the game. But it's just one of those things where shoot first, ask questions later. Right. Or it's easier to ask for an apology or it's easy. What's the saying, Earl? Help me. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
I thought you were talking about the saying, he who goes to bed with an itchy butt wakes up with a black finger. Those hemorrhoids are killing me right now. But so
maybe that's why you get the rich toilet paper.
Telling me. I mean, at one point I thought I had two.
If I actually had toilet paper coated with like hemorrhoid cream, it might 2 birds, 1 stone.
Well, I mean, one point last week I thought I had 2 assholes. I mean, it was just like, just stay away from the empanadas
and get down to the gym if that's the case.
Yeah, double barrel, and I ain't talking shotgun. No, I can't imagine. I've had some ones tough going out. I can't imagine what going in must feel like. But that's so. All right, we could just keep going. What's the funniest thing that's ever been said to you on the ice?
Ah, man.
By a team, it's someone just trying to get you going. I mean, you've said that to a Prust.
Yeah. No, I don't. I can only give you what what's the name? Why can't I think of his first name? Thornton.
Scott Thornton,
No,
Sean Thornton.
Sean. What he said to Braden Coburn, and Braden Coburn has a really distinct nose, like could smoke a cigar in the shower type thing. And he was playing D, and Thornton was on the bench, and it was a face-off in the neutral zone close to our bench, or it would have been Sean's bench, because I think he was with a different team at the time. But it got around the league where he had said to the linesman who was about to drop the puck, he would, hey, tell Coburn to get his nose out of the circle. And that's probably one of the funnier things I'd ever heard.
Right. I mean,
because if your nose is in the circle, you can't drop the puck.
Yeah.
It's one of those face-off rules. And it's, I really appreciate the witty comments like that, the insults where you can't, if you're an intelligent person, you can't say anything. You can't say, oh, fuck you, because that's not going to,
right.
You just got to wear it.
Because there's that great clip of, I think Brian Bellows, he'd just taken a dive and face-offs by the Penguins bench. And at the time, it was Brian Trottier and Kevin Stevens on the bench just hammering him with calling him a pussy and a tit fucker. And just like, Jesus Christ. Trottier just going, you're a number one, Bellows, best player in the league.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, it's horrible. So, all right, well, Dustin, I can't thank you enough. And to know that we've set up a future date to watch a game at a bar that's frequented by guys who look like Caitlyn Jenner. By the way, I don't have any
girls are. What do you even say to?
What I say to Caitlyn Jenner? I'll just say this: I fucked worse. Yeah. I fucked girls.
He's a good-looking man.
Well, he's got great tits. He looks starting to look like the girl from SVU. I tell you, there's one group of people, and this is on the real, and I want to leave on a serious note. There's a lot of homophobia in this world. There's a lot of transgender phobia in this world. And there's one group of people that are so pissed off about Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner, more than others. And that's the 10 guys he beat in the 76 Olympics, because now they got beat by...
that's a new insult they're not going to live down.
Well, now they got beat by a chick. And now he wants to change back to Bruce Jenner, reports are. Typical woman, can't make up their fucking mind. Dustin Pinner, I don't want to say retired NHL player because he hasn't filed papers yet. Follow this man on Twitter. He was very nice enough to do this. This has been Inappropriate Earl, SoundCloud and iTunes. Let's make Gary Bettman listen to this broadcast. He might fast forward through some lines.
I can't get pink eye from holding this mic to my face this close, can I?
Well, let me tell you who's held that mic. Stephen Piercy, the singer from Rat, the guitar player from Warrant, the drummer from Cinderella. So, listen, you can't catch AIDS twice. There's a free clinic. Listen,
take a left at the gym.
I used to wear a Jofa helmet like this. And I used to have long hair. And in my ball hockey league, they would call me Baby Yager. And one day I had a bump on the back of my neck. And I thought, Jesus Christ, it's like a golf ball sized lump. And I thought, well, I better Google bump on the back of my neck. First thing that popped up was AIDS.
It usually does when you Google anything, I think.
Yeah. I Googled Dustin Penner. AIDS came up. Like, Jesus Christ. Just get a cellophane for that mic. Went and one day got 5 AIDS tests. Last one was right down the street thinking they're going to know what they're talking about in this area. Guy before me left crying. I'm like, how was it? Positive? You have it?
Want to split a cab?
Yeah. I'll meet you at gym. I'll have the Lexington Steel hot dog. Dustin Penner 25 on Twitter. I can't thank him enough. It's an honor to have and not just an NHL player, but someone who's won 2 Stanley Cups. And I can't, listen, as a King fan, and I want to leave on this. I've been a King fan long before Gretzky hit town. Thank you very much for bringing the cup to our city. And it
was a pleasure to help a team win one that hadn't won one even during the Gretzky era.
I mean, I remember
one of my favorite quotes from I think the Frozen Royalty Twitter account, he said after 10 seconds or a minute before they won their second cup, he says we're a minute away from referring to the Gretzky years as the lean years.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, Jesus, when Melrose took over, my God, I mean, Melrose was bringing guys like Troy Crowder who hadn't played in 4 fucking years. Yeah. He was... Thank you, Barry Melrose, for the mullet years. Dustin Penner, he's got to start the drive back to Newport Beach, take a left at Jim, and make a right at the Grinder billboard.
Tell him Earl sent you.
Thank you, Dustin, very much. We'll see you soon.